Today our guest on Let's Talk Jonesboro is Dr. Tina McMechen, and she is the Acting Executive Director of the American Society for the Positive Care of Children. Tina, welcome to Let's Talk Jonesboro.
Thank you so much, Bill. I'm delighted to be here to talk about the American SPCC. Our mission is to prevent child abuse through positive parenting, advocacy, and education.
Let's talk about your role and how you started.
All right. So I had been on the board of this nonprofit for several years. It's a nonprofit that is very near and dear to my heart because we believe that we should take action and do projects that are low cost and scalable that have a great impact all across the country. And so I've been on the board for a while, and when our executive director decided to step down, I took the opportunity to fill in while we're making some changes. So it's been a great 6 months.
Well, that's cool. The name positive parenting probably sounds more delicate than some of the things that you have to deal with. Can you tell us, just tell us about your group and what you do and who participates?
You got it. So I think I'll start with just describing how we define positive parenting.
Okay.
So, when we look across the spectrum of families in our country, what we're really targeting is the families that are not experiencing or are not actively involved in abuse. So we're trying to prevent child abuse. And what we believe is that positive parenting consists of three primary things. So first, it's spending quality time with your children. Mm-hmm. Put down the cell phone, turn the TV off, just spend time really being together. Second, we hope to encourage families to have meaningful conversations. So really opening up a true dialogue between children and their parents. We think that that will prevent a world of trouble, especially as children get older, if they feel comfortable talking with their mom and dad or caregiver about the things that are going on in their lives.
Right.
And last but not least is the concept of positive reinforcement. So we believe that caregivers and parents should try to positively reinforce good behavior much more than they punish for bad behavior.
Right.
So always trying to plant that seed in the child. Oh, good job. I really like how you did that. That was very creative. Really trying to zone in on what you think they're doing well.
They remember to compliment. It may not be our first instinct sometimes.
Absolutely. And we get so busy. I'm a mom of 3 kids, and they're all different ages, and so sometimes it's hard to remember in between trying to cart everybody around to football and basketball and baseball practice and cook dinner and get them to school on time to stop and really look in their eyes and say, you did a great job on that paper, and try to find something very specific that you like to comment. That's really important. Not just good job all the time, but find something specific to comment on.
I would think that's probably a good approach to everybody you deal with in life.
Oh, well,
too.
Probably so.
Maybe so. Well, tell me how you guys get entree to families, to children. What is your inroad? Do they seek you? Do you go through schools or churches? How does this work?
Well, so as a national nonprofit, we get a lot of web traffic. So a lot of people find us on the internet, americanspcc.org, and there we have a really great learning center. I think that's just the highlight of the whole site. And that learning center is organized by category, and so we have lots of information about ages and stages of children, about how to prevent child abuse, what to do if you experience child abuse or you see child abuse, how to report it. We have information about something called ACEs, that's Adverse Childhood Experiences, and that's just the concept that when someone is abused as a child, that attitude or behavior can carry forward into their adulthood, and sometimes we see people who might become alcoholics or drug addicts or have psychological problems. So we
become abusers themselves.
Absolutely, that's a great point. And we have information about that, about bullying, just sort of all aspects of parenting and caregiving, and we really try to focus on prevention.
Because it's hard to overcome your role models, is it not?
Absolutely, you are right. And I don't know if you're aware, but over 4 million cases of child abuse are reported in the United States every year, and every day 5 children die from abuse. So this is really a serious problem in the United States.
It's a very serious problem, and it's like a lot of things, you don't see it walking down the street or coming to your workplace or your school every day. It's there and it's hidden.
It is, but I think, Bill, the thing is, and that's why I was so delighted to come on the show, is I think if we all increase our awareness about this and we learn to look for the signs that, and also if the subject of child abuse becomes less taboo and we all begin to talk about it, then we can begin to recognize when a child is abused, and there are actually things you can do if you feel like you should intervene, if you feel like something's happening next door. There's a national hotline that you can call, or here in Arkansas, there's a phone number that we can flash on the screen, and people can call.
Tell us about some of the signs.
Well, so when you encounter a child, and this is maybe particularly helpful for teachers or nurses and lay people as well, but oftentimes research has shown that the children may be withdrawn. They may be like excessively watchful, like kind of jumpy, or it's kind of like they're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. They may get to school really early and stay really late because they don't want to go home. These are some of the things that you look for. And then, of course, if kids have unexplained bruises, marks, injuries it's really, you're kind of getting a fishy story. Those are the things that, in general, you can look for.
And if you see this, how do you know whether to report? How do you know you're not seeing what would you call it, a false positive, because mother gets or father gets a little too fed up at the grocery store, and you don't know that they're just acting out of... Parents make mistakes too, and so...
Absolutely.
It's not an easy decision, is it?
It's not. It's such a tricky thing. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because I think that, my best advice on that is to go with your gut. For one thing, if the child is clearly in immediate danger, like if they are really in danger, you should just call 911,
right,
regardless.
Right.
But I think that, it would, for me personally, it would depend on if I knew the family. You can kind of get a feel for that. But I think another thing that, I have personally done, because my kids have had meltdowns in the middle of Kroger, right?
Right.
So when I see another mom in that situation, I'll always go, "It's okay, Mama." Like if it seems like the tension's building, I always try to give that parent the idea like, hey, it happens to all of us. I'm here for you. Do you need some help? And I mean, that's what I personally would do, but I think each person has to make a decision just based on the information that they have at hand. But more than anything, we should keep the child's welfare in mind. And, if you call and it turns out to be a false positive, then that's great.
That's good news, right?
But sometimes I'm afraid that there are times that children have actually, suffered terrible abuse because nobody had the guts to speak up.
Nobody spoke up. Tell me about your time working with this nonprofit, some instances when you have seen the rewards and really felt like you're doing something that's valuable.
Well, the thing that, the project that I'm the most proud of is our pocket resource cards. And this is a low-cost, scalable project that we put together based on some research. So we started thinking about, what happens when a family is in trouble? What resources do they have available to them, regardless of whether they live in Arkansas or Seattle? And so we did some research, and we found that there are national hotlines that individuals or families can call for help, and they're free hotlines. So then we did a survey, and we kind of nailed down the top 8 hotlines across the country. And so one example is the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, the National Child Abuse Hotline. And we wanted to provide a printed resource with those hotlines. And so we printed up these little pocket cards. They're about the size of a business card. And the idea is that we're going to distribute them all over the country at no charge. Anybody who wants a stack of them can call me or email me, and I'll get it out to them at absolutely no cost to the individual or organization. And so let's say that a police officer is called to a domestic disturbance call and he doesn't make an arrest, but it's clear that, that family might need some help. He can leave the card with them so that at least they have some type of resource for their time of need. So we foresee these cards being useful in situations with police officers, nurses, teachers, counselors, social workers, or just everyday people. Maybe you see someone in the grocery store that you think might need a little extra help. You could pass this card along.
Where can people get these resource cards?
They can get them from me. So I have a big old stack of them in my office that I would be delighted to mail out. So they can email me at tina@americanspcc.org and
Wonderful.
send the mailing address and I'll get it right out.
That's wonderful. And that's if you're just a regular citizen, or if you're a teacher, you can probably get a dozen cards if you want to pass around the school, or
couple dozen.
Couple dozen.
Yeah, we want
Well,
these to
good.
be freely available and sort of blanket the community with them.
Right, and you said, I think you've got 8 hotlines on the card.
That's right.
So you can, you've got a lot of the bases covered.
Absolutely. In fact, I've got a card right here if you want to
Okay.
take a look.
All right, so we've got the National Child Abuse Hotline, National Sexual Assault Hotline, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services, the National Suicide Hotline. I assume that means not just for children, right?
Right. Anyone can call these numbers.
These
yes.
these are numbers for everyone. The National Domestic Violence Hotline, the National Runaway Safe Line, and Crying Baby Hotline.
That one's really interesting.
Tell me about that one.
We included that because so many new parents, it's so stressful. You've got this tiny baby. You don't know what to do. The baby's crying and it's 2 in the morning and you've never had a child before. Nobody tells you this when you leave the hospital.
That's right. You don't come with rules.
You may have an inconsolable baby at 2 in the morning. And so this is just a hotline that frazzled parents can call and they can talk with them about strategies, that might help soothe the baby. It's really just a chance for a frustrated new parent, an exhausted, frustrated new parent to just take a breath and have someone who really understands what they're going to on the other end of the line.
Right. And of course, the most important number of all is if there's immediate danger, call 911.
Absolutely. Yes.
And not in immediate danger of your pizza not arriving on time, because we do
Yes.
get too many calls to our 911 center. But if you've got a potentially serious problem, call 911.
Yes.
Don't be afraid.
Absolutely.
Your experiences with this, how do you see the outcomes working? Tell me about some positive outcome and what happens simply because your nonprofit exists.
Well, that's a great question, and it's one that we've had to accept that it may be difficult to measure sometimes because, maybe someone will get our card and they call the number, the suicide prevention hotline. We'll probably never know that. Right. So we just have to have faith that, the work that we're doing is going to reach people. We do have some measurement or metrics, so we can see the number of people who visit our website. We sponsor webinars, and we have people who attend our webinars live and watch our recordings. We can measure, how many people order our cards. But there are some things that we just release into society and knowing that it's going to help. Even if that saves one life, it was worth the time and effort it was to put those cards together.
I think there are a lot of good parents who maybe sometimes get frustrated and you just want to cross that line. How do they talk themselves out of it? How do they deal? How do parents self-parent?
Well, that's one of the reasons that I was so drawn to this particular organization, because I mentioned I have 3 children, right? 14, 13, and 7.
Been there.
Yeah.
Not 3, I had 2, but I've been there. So.
And I would not categorize myself as a child abuser, right? I'm trying
Correct.
to be the best mom that I can be, but I need all the help that I can get. And so this organization reminds me about the facets of positive parenting. So just remembering, just having an awareness of, okay, I need to try to positively reinforce. What did I say that was building my child up today instead of tearing them down? And so I kind of think about it like a bank account sometimes. You want to put more good in than the bad that you pull out. So I think that that's sort of been my mantra, and I certainly don't. My children, if they're watching this, would be laughing, saying, "You're not a perfect parent." I'm not trying to make myself out like I am. We all make mistakes, and that's part of the community that we're trying to build, just to show support to each other, to show other parents, hey, I've been there, we've all been there, you know, everything's okay. Here's some solid strategies that you can try when you get really frustrated. So one thing that I've learned is, you know, if you're in a safe place, obviously you wouldn't want to do this if you're in the middle of the mall, but instead of putting the child in timeout, I'll kind of take a timeout myself. And I'll say, okay, you sit on the couch, I'm going to go in the kitchen for a minute and just kind of compose myself and take a deep breath or whatever until I feel more calm and I'm able to deal with the situation. So there's lots of little strategies like that that you can do.
Not everything has to be dealt with in the moment.
Exactly.
See, that's probably a thought that never occurred to me as a parent. Although I'm still a parent, so maybe it will benefit some.
You can put yourself in
adults.
timeout, Bill.
I can put myself in timeout. That's good. That's a really good strategy and a good thought process. And I'm sure that that's what you guys do is come up with these thought processes.
We do. We have in our Webinar Wednesday series, we try to bring in guest speakers to talk about all kinds of things related to positive parenting. And so, you know, we really focus on, here are the top 5 concrete strategies that we're going to talk about this week. So these webinars are all recorded and housed on our Learning Center page. People can go visit that at no charge anytime and check it out.
That's free. That's the key point is the free, because that's
absolutely.
That means people can trust you without thinking that you're trying to sell them something.
We absolutely aren't. Yeah.
You're trying to do good. You're trying to do good for children and parents, and that's just a fabulous thing.
Well, thank you. I'm delighted to have this opportunity to talk about it, and it's just been so much fun to be here with you today.
Well, thank you. She's Dr. Tina McMechen, and she is with the American Society for the Positive Care of Children. Thank you, Doctor.
Oh, my pleasure.